You pretend you're fine, but your soul has been aching for truth. You've sat in the pews, you've read the lines, and you've waited for the heavens to part for you just as they did for a 14-year-old boy in a grove of trees 2 centuries ago. Yet, for you, the sky remains silent. You feel a quiet desperation, a spiritual hunger that isn't satisfied by the surface-level answers you hear on Sunday mornings. You've been told to pray, and you have prayed. You've been told to feel, and you've tried to feel. But there is a hollow space in your chest where the witness should be. Joseph Smith once felt exactly the same. He didn't start with a vision. He started with a crisis. He started with a profound internal conflict that felt like a weight crushing his very ribs. He lived in a world of noise, a world of competing voices all claiming to have the path to salvation, yet none of them could offer the peace his heart demanded. You are living in that same noise today. It might not be the shouting of circuit riders or the clanging of revival bells, but it is the noise of digital distraction, the noise of anxiety, the noise of a world that demands your attention but never nourishes your spirit. This is the moment where you must realize that 95% of those who seek revelation are missing the very pattern Joseph discovered. They rely on fleeting emotions, on warm sentiments that evaporate the moment life gets difficult. They treat revelation like a magic trick instead of a divine technology. But you are here because you know there is more. You are here because you are ready to stop guessing and start knowing. Joseph Smith saw 4 forgotten keys to receiving personal revelation. Keys that are hidden in plain sight within the history of the restoration. If you carry this weight quietly, if you have felt the darkness before the dawn, then listen closely. The heavens are not closed. They are simply waiting for you to move according to the law that governs them. There is a fundamental misunderstanding that plagues the modern seeker, a spiritual paralysis that comes from equating the spirit solely with a comfortable feeling. We have been conditioned to believe that if we feel good, it is God, and if we feel nothing, God is absent. But this is a shallow pool in which to drown your eternal questions. Joseph Smith's life was not a series of comfortable feelings. It was a series of intense, often agonizing, mental and spiritual labors. He understood that the human heart is a complex instrument capable of producing its own echoes. If you rely on feelings alone, you are at the mercy of your biology, your mood, and your environment. The first great secret that Joseph understood is that revelation is not a passive reception of data, but an active alignment of the soul. Most members of the church and most seekers of the divine across the world miss the full pattern because they are waiting for God to do for them what He has already commanded them to do for themselves. They wait for a sign, for a lightning bolt, for an undeniable surge of adrenaline. While the still small voice is whispering in a frequency they haven't tuned their hearts to hear. You must recognize that the silence you are experiencing is not rejection. It is an invitation to go deeper. It is the darkness that precedes the calling. When Joseph went into the grove, he wasn't looking for a religion. He was looking for a way to reconcile the warring parts of his own nature. He was looking for the truth that would set his mind at rest. This state of inner conflict is the prerequisite for breakthrough. If you feel lost today, it is because you are finally standing in a place where only God can find you. You have exhausted the wisdom of men. You have tried the traditional paths and found them wanting. Now, you must learn the mechanics of the Spirit. You must learn that revelation is a law, and like any law of the universe, it responds to specific conditions. Joseph did not just pray, he performed. A spiritual experiment that shattered the silence of 400 years. The first of these forgotten keys is the principle of asking in faith with real intent. This sounds like a cliché we've heard 1,000 times, but we have stripped it of its true power. To ask with real intent is not merely to ask and hope for an answer. It is to ask with the predetermined resolution to act upon whatever answer is given, before the answer ever arrives. This is where most of us fail. We approach the throne of grace as if we are shopping for advice. We want to know God's will so that we can decide whether or not we agree with it. We want the revelation first, and then we will offer our obedience. But the economy of heaven does not work this way. Joseph Smith went into the woods having already decided that he would follow the truth, no matter the cost to his reputation, his family, or his life. Real intent means you have already signed the contract, and you are simply waiting for God to fill in the terms. When you pray for guidance about your career, your relationships, or your calling, do you truly mean it? Or are you looking for divine permission to do what you've already decided to do? The heavens remain brass when our hearts are divided. Joseph's prayer was the prayer of a man who had no other options. He had reached the end of himself. This is the psychological breakthrough. The moment you break is the moment you're called. Until you are willing to surrender your own will entirely, you are only talking to yourself. Revelation requires a vacuum of self-will that only the Spirit can fill. You must ask yourself, if the answer God gives you is the opposite of what you want, are you still going to do it? If the answer is wait, are you willing to sit in the silence? If the answer is give up everything, are you ready to walk away? Real intent is the bridge between the human and the divine. It is the signal to the heavens that you are a serious participant in the work, not just a curious observer. Joseph's second key is the labor of the mind, studying it out. In the 9th section of the Doctrine and Covenants, we find a profound corrective given to Oliver Cowdery, who had failed to translate because he took no thought save it was to ask. We often fall into the same trap. We want revelation to be a download, a sudden infusion of knowledge that requires no effort on our part. We want the fruit without the planting. But Joseph Smith was a student of the divine. He spent his life immersed in the scriptures, not just reading them, but wrestling with them. He understood that the mind is the crucible in which the Spirit works. To study it out means to engage your intellect, your logic, and your research to their absolute limits. It means looking at your problem from every angle, gathering all the facts, weighing the consequences, and formulating a conclusion. Only after you have done the mental heavy lifting are you prepared to take that conclusion to the Lord for a confirmation. This is why so many feel the heavens are silent. They haven't given the Lord anything to work with. You cannot expect a burning in the breast over a blank page. You must write the page first. Joseph's process of translation was not a passive trance. It was an exhausting mental exercise that left him physically drained. He was stretching his mind to encompass the thoughts of ancient prophets, and in that stretching, the revelation came. If you are seeking an answer today, stop asking for a miracle and start doing the work. Read the books, talk to the experts, map out the possibilities, and then, with a clear and reasoned proposition, go before the Father. The Spirit does not replace our intelligence. It sanctifies it, takes our best efforts and breathes life into them. This is the synthesis of the soul, the mind, and the heart working in perfect alignment. When you have exhausted your own capacity to reason, that is when the higher reason of the Spirit begins to speak. The third key is the most subtle and the most frequently misunderstood. Recognizing the Spirit's voice as it actually sounds, not as you think it should sound. We have a cultural script for revelation that often involves overwhelming emotion or a literal voice. But Joseph Smith taught that the Spirit often comes as sudden strokes of ideas. It feels like your own thought, but it has a different quality, a purity, a brightness, an intelligence that flows into you. Joseph described it as pure intelligence flowing into you, which may give you sudden strokes of ideas, so that by noticing it, you may find it fulfilled the same day or soon. This is the part that 95% of saints miss. They are waiting for a foreign voice to enter their head, when the Spirit is actually speaking through the very structure of their own thoughts. It is the thought that brings peace when there should be chaos. It is the idea that persists when you try to push it away. It is the sudden realization of a truth you hadn't considered before. To recognize the Spirit, you must become an observer of your own internal landscape. You must learn to distinguish between the frantic, repetitive noise of the ego and the calm, expansive clarity of the divine. The voice of the Lord is not usually a thunderclap. It is the whisper of the dawn. It is a widening of the soul. Joseph taught that when you feel your soul enlarge, that is the Spirit. When you feel your mind enlightened, that is the Spirit. It is not always a feeling in the sense of an emotion. It is an increase in capacity. It is the ability to see things as they really are. This requires a profound level of stillness. You cannot hear this frequency if your life is a constant stream of external input. You must create the silence. You must be willing to sit in the stillness until you can tell the difference between your own anxiety and the Lord's direction. This is a skill that is developed over time, through trial and error, through the witness that comes after the trial of your faith. The fourth key, and perhaps the most vital for those who feel stuck, is the principle of immediate action. In the history of the restoration, we see a consistent pattern. When a commandment was given, Joseph moved. He did not wait for the perfect circumstances. He did not wait until he felt completely ready. He understood that revelation is a living thing, and like all living things, it must be fed by action or it will wither. When you receive a nudge, a small prompting, or a stroke of an idea, the window of opportunity to act is often very small. If you hesitate, the ego begins to rationalize. Tells you that it was just your own thought, that it's not practical, or that you should wait for more information. But Joseph knew that the second witness often only comes after you have taken the first step into the dark. This is the paradox of the gospel. You receive the light as you walk toward it, not while you are standing still waiting for it to illuminate the whole path. If you are waiting for the entire map before you leave the house, you will never go anywhere. Revelation is like a lamp unto your feet. It only lights the next step or two. As you take those steps, the lamp moves with you, revealing the next stretch of the road. Many seekers are paralyzed because they have received a small prompting and ignored it, and now they wonder why no more instructions are coming. Why would the heavens give you the second paragraph if you haven't read the first? Consecration is the key here. When you act immediately, you are signaling to God that you are a reliable instrument. You are telling Him that His word is more important than your comfort or your fear. This creates a feedback loop of revelation. The more you act, the more you receive. The more you receive, the more you act. This is how Joseph Smith moved from a boy in a grove to a prophet who could unveil the mysteries of eternity. He didn't start with the endowment, he started with a walk to the woods. He didn't start with the city of Zion. He started by telling his mother he had found that Presbyterianism was not true. Small actions of obedience are the fuel for great revelations. Think about the silence you carry. You feel as though you are shouting into a void, but perhaps the void is actually a mirror. Joseph Smith's life was defined by the nevertheless. He would describe his weaknesses, his follies, and his deep sense of unworthiness, and then he would say, "Nevertheless, I knew I had seen a vision." This is the psychological breakthrough you need today. You must accept your imperfection and your struggle as part of the process, not as a barrier to it. The 95% miss the pattern because they think they have to be perfect before they can be heard. They think they have to have a perfectly clear mind and a perfectly pure heart before the heavens will open. But Joseph was a rough stone, being rolled and polished by the very process of revelation itself. He was cut out of the mountain without hands while he was still covered in the dust of the earth. Your struggles, your doubts, and even your mistakes do not disqualify you from receiving the word of the Lord. They are the very things that make the word necessary. You are in the darkness because that is where the light is most visible. The silence you feel is not a sign of God's distance, but a sign of His respect for your agency. He is waiting for you to use the keys. He is waiting for you to ask with real intent, to decide that you are His no matter what. He is waiting for you to study it out, to use the mind He gave you to its fullest extent. He is waiting for you to listen for the subtle increase of your soul. And He is waiting for you to move. If you have been waiting for a sign, let this be it. The fact that you are still seeking, despite the silence, is the evidence that the Spirit is already working within you. That hunger in your soul is not a lack of God. It is the presence of God calling you home. There is a specific kind of courage required to move alone in the spiritual life. Joseph Smith was often alone. Even when he was surrounded by thousands of followers, he carried a weight of knowledge and responsibility that no one else could fully share. He had to trust the witness of his own soul when everyone around him was telling him he was deluded or dangerous. This is the struggle you face when you decide to follow the pattern of revelation. The world will not understand your sudden strokes of ideas. Your own logic will often rebel against the promptings of the Spirit. You will feel the temptation to align yourself with the 95%, to settle for a comfortable, predictable faith that requires no personal sacrifice and offers no personal revelation. But you cannot go back now. Once you have glimpsed the possibility of a direct connection with the divine, the substitutes will never satisfy you again. The keys Joseph Smith used are not relic pieces of history. They are the tools for your own personal restoration. Your life is meant to be a living revelation. Every decision you make, every path you take, can be guided by the same light that directed the building of temples and the crossing of plains. But it requires you to step out of the crowd. It requires you to be willing to be wrong in the eyes of the world so that you can be right in the eyes of God. This is the sacred psychological breakthrough. The moment you realize that your identity is not defined by your social standing or your outward success, but by your alignment with the eternal. When you are aligned, the noise of the world fades into the background. The opinions of others lose their power to sting. You are grounded in a reality that is more real than anything you can touch or see. You become a witness not because you have memorized a testimony, but because you have experienced the power of the Spirit for yourself. Consider the timing of revelation. We often feel that God is late. We feel that we have been waiting in the dark for too long. But Joseph Smith's history shows that the timing of heaven is precise, even when it feels agonizing to us. The 4 years between the first vision and the receiving of the plates were not years of wasted time. They were years of preparation. Joseph had to be tutored. He had to learn to overcome his own desires for wealth and fame. He had to be tempered in the fire of waiting. If you are in a season of waiting right now, do not mistake it for a season of abandonment. You are being prepared for the weight of the answer you are seeking. Revelation is not just about getting information. It is about becoming the kind of person who can handle that information. If God gave you the full answer today, you might not have the spiritual muscle to carry it. The silence is the gym where your faith is built. Every day you choose to believe despite the silence, your spiritual capacity grows. Every time you study it out without an immediate answer, your mind is being sharpened. Every time you act on a small prompting, your character is being forged. The wait is not a delay. It is a transformation. Joseph Smith had to become a prophet before he could lead a people. You have to become a seer of your own life before you can fulfill your calling. The keys are in your hands, but they only turn when the timing is right. Trust the process. Trust the God who knows the end from the beginning. He is not ignoring you, He is crafting you. In the quiet moments of your reflection, look at the fourth key again. Acting immediately. This is where the power resides. There is a sacred momentum in the spiritual life. When you receive a thought to reach out to someone, do it now. When you feel an urge to change a habit, start this moment. When you sense a direction for your family, speak it today. This immediacy creates a holy friction that ignites the light of revelation. Most people miss the full pattern because they treat the Spirit like a suggestion box. They take the ideas under advisement and wait for a more convenient time to implement them. But the Spirit is a commander, not a consultant. When Joseph received the word to move the church to Ohio, he didn't wait for the crops to be harvested or the houses to be sold. He moved. When he was told to build a temple in a swampy bend of the Mississippi River, he didn't wait for a better economic climate. He moved. This radical responsiveness is what separates the 5% from the 95%. It is what allows the heavens to remain open. If you want to hear God's voice tomorrow, obey what He told you yesterday. If you haven't done what He already asked, why should He speak again? This is the core of the struggle. We want more light, but we are not using the light we already have. We want the mysteries, but we are neglecting the basics. Revelation is a stewardship. If you are faithful over a few small promptings, you will be made ruler over many great visions. This is the promise of the restoration. This is the law of the harvest. Now, as you sit with these truths, let the weight of them settle into your soul. This is not just another video or another sermon. This is a call to alignment. You have been carrying a silent struggle, a hunger for something real in a world of shadows. You have felt the darkness before the dawn, and you have wondered if the light would ever come. The keys are before you, asking in faith with real intent, not just seeking advice, but offering your life. studying it out, engaging your mind until it burns with the effort, recognizing the voice, learning the quiet, expansive language of the Spirit, acting immediately, sealing every impression with obedience. This is the pattern. This is how the boy became a prophet. This is how the silence becomes a song. You are not alone in this grove. The same God who heard the prayer of Joseph Smith is listening to the heartbeat of your soul right now. He is not moved by your eloquence. He is moved by your sincerity. He is not looking for your perfection. He is looking for your presence. Stay in this moment of emotional surrender. Let go of the need to have it all figured out. Let go of the fear that you are somehow broken or forgotten. You are exactly where you need to be to receive the revelation you seek. The darkness is not your enemy. It is the canvas upon which the glory of God will be painted. Take a breath and recognize the change in the air. The moment you decide to apply these keys, the heavens begin to shift. You may not feel a sudden surge of power, but you will feel a quiet shift in your orientation. You are no longer a victim of the silence. You are a participant in the revelation. This is the empowered stillness that Joseph Smith achieved in the face of mobs and trials. It is the peace that passeth understanding. As you go forward from this moment, do not look for the spectacular. Look for the sudden strokes of ideas. Look for the widening of your soul. Look for the next small step you can take in faith. If this resonates with you, if you feel that quiet vibration of truth in your chest, then you are already beginning to hear the voice. You are already beginning to see. The 95% will continue to wait for a feeling that never comes. But you have the keys. You have the pattern. You have the promise. The heavens are open, and your calling is waiting. This is the moment your restoration begins. Stand in your light, act on your truth, and let the witness come in its own time, according to the wisdom of him who knows your name and has counted every tear you've shed in the dark. You are seen, you are heard, and you are called. Now move. The transformation you seek is not a destination, but a way of walking. Joseph Smith didn't just have a vision and then go back to being the person he was before. Every encounter with the divine remade him. Every revelation stretched his capacity to love, to endure, and to understand. This is the sacred psychological breakthrough, the realization. That revelation is not just about what you know, but about who you are becoming. If you feel like the process is slow, if you feel like you are struggling to maintain the light, remember that the sun does not jump to the meridian in a single second. It rises by degrees. It warms the earth slowly, coaxing the life out of the soil. Your soul is the same. The seeds of revelation have been planted in you since before you were born. They are triggered by the light of the Spirit, but they require the nourishment of your daily choices. When you choose to be honest when it's hard, when you choose to be kind when you're tired, when you choose to pray when you feel empty, those are the moments when the roots go deep. Those are the moments that make the great visions possible. Joseph Smith's greatness was not in his miraculous gifts, but in his relentless pursuit of the divine despite his human frailties. He was a man who refused to stop seeking. He was a man who refused to settle for a form of godliness without the power thereof. You are called to that same relentless pursuit. You are called to be a seeker in an age of skeptics. You are called to be a holder of light in a world of shadows. As you conclude this reflection, carry the quiet certainty of the keys with you. They are not complicated, but they are demanding. They require your whole heart, your whole mind, and your whole strength. But the reward is a life of meaning, a life of alignment, and a life of constant communion with the source of all truth. You have been in the darkness before your calling, but the dawn is breaking. The silence is over. The Father and the Son are ready to speak, not just to a prophet in 1820, but to you in your room, in your car, in your office, in your heart. They have never stopped speaking. We have only forgotten how to listen. But you are remembering now. You are waking up. You are stepping into the pattern. And as you do, you will find that the Grove is not a place in New York. It is the sanctuary of your own consecrated soul. There is light awaiting you. There is truth yet to be revealed. There is a work for you to do that no one else can fulfill. Go and find it. Go and live it. The heavens are open. The keys are yours. The dawn is here. You have heard the words, and you have felt the weight of the silence lift just a fraction. This is the beginning of the witness. It is the quiet yes that echoes in the chambers of your spirit when you hear a truth you have always known but have only just discovered how to name. Do not let this moment fade into the background of your daily life. Do not let the noise of the world drown out this fledgling clarity. Joseph Smith's first vision was followed by years of ordinary life, but he never forgot the light. He never allowed the mundane to swallow the miraculous. You must do the same. Protect this insight. Nurture this intent. The keys are not just for the big questions of life. They are for the everyday moments where your character is tested and your soul is refined. When you feel the pull of old habits or the weight of old despairs, return to the keys. Ask with real intent. Lord, what wouldst thou have me do in this very moment? Study it out. What are the consequences of my choices? What is the higher path? Listen for the voice. Which thought brings me peace? And act immediately. I will choose the light now, not tomorrow. This is how you build a life of revelation. This is how you become a pillar of strength for those around you who are still wandering in the fog. You are no longer among the 95% who miss the pattern. You are among the few who have found the narrow way that leads to life. And as you walk that way, you will find that the path itself is made of light. You will find that the darkness was never an absence of God, but a space He created for you to grow into your own divine potential. The struggle was the school, the silence was the teacher, and the revelation is the graduation into the person you were always meant to be. Stay in the light. Stay in the pattern. The heavens are yours.